Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/MaliciousCompliance, where people spite Karens on purpose by doing exactly what they say, not necessarily what they want. And in this episode, guys, OP's smug neighbor calls the cops on him, and she soon realizes that she just started a war with someone she shouldn't have. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's super satisfying stories. Hit subscribe if you haven't, and as always, you can send or link your stories to this email right here. We're diving in. So when I was in high school, I worked at my local GameStop. And this is my favorite story. Now, the malicious compliance is minor, but I thought the situation was quite funny and absurd. So I worked in a very small store, in a wealthy town with a bunch of suburban Karens. So outside of the holidays, we typically only have 2 people on a shift. My manager was a super chill 25-year-old stoner skater punk who didn't give a crap as long as you got your work done and hit your targets. I was able to read, do homework, or play games behind the counter when there was nothing else to do, and the dress code was minimally enforced. So one day, I was working with the manager behind the counter, and I was wearing jeans, a black collared shirt, and my typical Hot Topic goth makeup and pentagram necklace. It was a slow day, and the manager was doing inventory on one of the 2 registers, while I worked on the never-ending task of alphabetizing game cartridges behind the counter. That's when a mom came, about 40 years old, and she comes up to the counter to buy an Xbox controller for her son. I brush myself off from alphabetizing and greet her with a smile at register number 2. I say to the woman, "Hi, I can ring that up for you right here." To which the woman says, snappily, "I will wait." Now hearing that, the manager and I exchange a confused glance, and the manager says, "Is there a reason she can't help you? I'm in the middle of doing inventory, so it's gonna be a while before I'm available." The woman then looks at the manager and says, "I don't like her necklace. It's satanic," referring to the pentagram. I just look at the manager in shock and surprise, and slowly lower myself back behind the counter to continue alphabetizing, while trying to stifle my laughter. So we complied with her request, and I let her wait 10 minutes for the manager to finish up, lest her Xbox controller gets cursed by my 17-year-old goth fingers. After she left, my manager says to me, "Yeah, her kid's probably playing Call of Duty with that controller too." And that was the last we saw of her. Oh man, if I were the manager, guys, I would have totally gotten really petty and stretched out my work at that point and made her wait even longer. Either that, or I would have just gone to the back and said, yeah, she can ring you up just fine, ma'am." And listen, guys, I used to watch the show Supernatural all the time, and pentagrams were used as signs of protection from demons. Which I guess in this case, OP's necklace did its job. It protected her from Little Miss Karen. I used to work at the postal station from hell. While working there, I had a piece of rolling equipment get caught in a piece of broken tile, and then pop up onto my toe. It then shattered my toenail. I was lucky to not have a broken toe from it too. I was on light duty, which meant I had to work the service window, where people come to pick up packages, fill out change of address, and stuff like that. Now remember, I have a foot injury. This means that getting around is not easy for me. So I have a customer come in about an hour before closing. The guy hands over 2 pick up your mail forms for certified letters. Now y'all probably don't realize this, but in big city facilities, we don't have your certified mail sitting in a gold case all by itself, with postal workers staring wistfully at it, wondering when we'll see you. No, we have your mail sorted out by the last number of your street address in trays, with hundreds of other certified letters just like yours. This means it can take quite a while to find your mail when you finally drag your butt in to pick it up. So I go looking for these 2 letters. It was a recent enough thing that I checked the stand-up cubby we had for the latest letters and packages ready for pickup. It wasn't there, so I hobbled to the longer-term storage area, about 10 feet from the door. I finally find both letters and go to the window, and that's when the customer tells me that he wants to talk to the postmaster because it took me 3 minutes too long to get his mail, and that was unacceptable. I tried to convince him to get the party more likely to be on the premises to handle this complaint, like a supervisor, but no, he's adamant about speaking to the postmaster. Now here's a hint, people. The later in the day it is, the less likely the postmaster will be there. But okay, if you want the postmaster, you'll get the postmaster. So I smile and tell him, "Sure thing, I'll go get him right now," and shut the Dutch door, with his mail still in my hand. I'm thinking to myself, if you thought 3 minutes was a long wait, you just activated a union worker trap card, bub. Now I did go to the postmaster's office at first, but as usual, he wasn't there. Still, I made a good faith effort to look there. I didn't see him on the floor either, so I checked the dock while conveniently having a smoke while I was out there. Nasty former habit, I know. I then checked the break room and got a soda while I was there. I then knocked on the men's room door, and around that time, the soda just worked its way through me, and I needed to use the ladies' room now. I was about to check the parking lot to see if his car was even there. And that's when I saw him, the postmaster coming back from an off-site meeting. I take the time to bring him up to speed on the customer's complaint. This guy knew me and he smiled and said, "Well, how long have you kept him waiting now?" I tell him, "I think it's been 25 minutes. You can deal with him while I handle the paperwork." The guy says, "This'll be fun. You're lucky I like you because you're a hard worker." The customer was absolutely livid when the door finally opened again. He demands that I be fired right then and there, and the guy won't leave until I do get fired. My boss, to his credit, chews out the customer for being such a jerk to an injured employee, who had actually done a great job in only taking 3 minutes to find 2 letters amongst hundreds in 2 separate locations. He even took one of the trays to the ledge, slammed it down and said, "See how long it'll take you to go through this and not find 1, but 2 letters, and then tell me 3 minutes is too long." So the lesson to be learned is union workers don't have to take crap from dirtbags. We won't. So spare yourself a whole lot of grief and just chill out. It's only mail, for crying out loud. Wow guys, imagine throwing a fit over 3 minutes, waiting 3 minutes. Like what the heck is he gonna do with that precious 3 minutes that OP took from him? And I just wanna say guys, the postmaster was amazing. I love it when Karens demand the manager, thinking it'll get the employee in trouble only to have it backfire on them. Now, this might paint me in a bad light, but I don't care that much. Just a note, this happened in Poland. So I live in a block of flats with slightly higher standards, meaning we have a gate, our own parking space, trash cans, camera system, everything. I work as a programmer and remotely, and I'm also single and keep mostly to myself. I also try never to harm anybody, not to get into drama, and just live slowly and steadily alone, barely leaving home except doing groceries. So my neighbors know me as that homeowner that never causes any problems, and is always helpful and polite. One time, I had to replace my current bed. It was old, dirty, and I just wanted something better. So I ordered a new bed, dismantled my old one, and it was ready to be taken out. Where I live, every 2 weeks, a truck comes into the neighborhood to take away all the big things set beside the trash containers. That day was tomorrow. Now sadly, I live on floor number 3, so taking my old bed by myself would be too hard for me alone. So I asked my brother for help, but he couldn't have it done tomorrow, so he helped me today. Before this, our block's terms of service say that you're not allowed to put out trash except on the day the truck comes. So not wanting to make any outbursts, I asked my favorite neighbor for a favor. If I could put it on his parking spot the day before, because, well, I wouldn't be able to do it on the correct day. The guy gave me a thumbs up. I then checked with another member of the Housing Cooperative Board to see if it's fine. The guy says since the owner of the spot knows, he said it's okay. I then moved on with the plan. My brother comes, we moved the old bed outside, occupied the spot, and called it a day. And that's when Karen comes in. The woman's around 50 years old, and she's the type that sits at home all day, staring out the window and tries to find something to complain about. The Karen comes to my home, bangs on my door, and tried to explain that it's against the law, so I had to have it taken away right now. In exchange, I tried to explain to her why I did that, and how I already got approval. And she wasn't having it. She threatened to call police on me for littering if I didn't get it done today. I tell her, sure, okay, I guess I'm technically in the wrong here, so I'll just comply. I then called a private company to take the bed away today. I also specifically went to her home and told her that it would be gone today, and she said it's fine. So the truck arrives and they start taking away the bed, and guess who also comes? The police. So apparently she called the police right after I talked to her, and I'm livid. Not because I was afraid of a fine or anything, but just because it was the first time in my life that someone did something so hostile towards me, even though I said I'd do what she wants. I explained the whole situation, and the police see no problem. They don't even give me any trouble. And that's when the Karen that called the police looks out her window and yells, "Thank you, officers, for dealing with him," with a big grin on her face. And at this point, I'm even more upset. I think to myself, hey, if you want to perfectly obey the law, fine, I'll make sure you do. So with that, I get the community rules from the council and study them thoroughly to find potential reasons to make her life a living hell. I saw her taking out the trash one day, and I clearly hear glass bottles in the bag. And I look out the window and she throws it in the wrong container. And I call the community board, and bam, she gets in trouble because she didn't comply with how to properly sort garbage in the community. The next day, I come back from groceries and I see her car. She parked over the line by a foot, so it's basically like taking up 2 spaces. I call the police, they come, and bam, she gets a fine. She also walks her dog in our private space. And as I watch her through the window, I can see her dog pooping, but she doesn't scoop it up. And again, I call the community board with a complaint, and she gets in trouble. After a while, she comes to me and she wants to apologize. Now here's the part that makes me look bad. I told her, no, I don't accept it. Because I'll admit, I am a vindictive person to people who try to create trouble for others without a good reason. I told her all I'm doing is making sure you're following the community rules, just like how you wanted me to. At that, she scoffs at me, said something rude, and just went away. I've been doing this for like 3 months now. And the woman finally had enough, and today she moved out. But before she did, she made sure to put a bag of trash on my doorstep while I was away. Now the stupid thing about that is the trash contained a letter with her information on it. So I get the last laugh by reporting it to the police. And I know, rules are rules, and I was technically in the wrong first for breaking them. But the moment she went out of her way to enforce them and then screw me anyway, that's when the line was crossed. I have no shame for calling her out on whatever she did to the point that she got sick of it and left. I was just doing God's work and ensuring that rules are not broken. Guys, that Karen should have totally minded her own business. And I disagree with OP when he says he broke the rules first. He didn't break any rules. OP got permission from the kind neighbor to use his empty parking spot and even got it approved by a member of the housing board. All that was left was to wait until the next day for the garbage truck to show up. And that should have been no problem, but no, Karen tries to be the enforcer and this is what she gets. Be careful who you mess with, guys. So many moons ago, I worked in a department store. It was a weekend contract gig while I was at university. It had departments for various things, and for no particular reason, I ended up working in the basement on homewares. There were no grumbles for me though. Money is money, and the work was easy and my team was awesome. The first week, I recall someone saying retail would be great if it wasn't for the customers. And hearing that, I was saddened. Like, what a mentality to have for the place you spend most of your waking week. It took me a few years to figure out that that was 100% true. The amazing customers absolutely do not outnumber or overshadow the monsters. So after a while, I got moved into home care electricals, where I sold vacuums, pressure washers, and irons. One day, a woman comes in who we'll call Karen. She had instant hatred of everything and everyone. Now my job is to help customers, so her distaste for the existence and pleasure for misery really mattered not at all. The woman was picking up various generator irons on the shelf, inspecting them and looking out of her depth. These things can be used in the home, and some of the models we stocked you could use professionally. They started at expensive and went up to crazy money. It was pretty normal that I would have to go through all the specs for the customers. If you're gonna part with 250 pounds for an iron, you want to know what you're getting for your money. I get it. So I walk over to her to help and say, "Anything I can help you with today, madam?" The woman looks at me like I'm a fart that had just got into an elevator with her, and she says, "I want to buy an iron." And I'm thinking, way to state the obvious, but the customer's always right. So I smile and go on and say, what type of iron are you looking for? Are you using it at home or professionally? The woman says, "It's for me to use. I'm the woman of the household." Now, the way she stressed the woman wasn't a gripe at her lot in life. It was more like when someone reminds you that this is their turf, their specialty, their baby. I just thought, hey, no problem by me. I'll see if I can help you with that. I say to Karen, "No problem at all. This model here is normal use commercially, and you can't access the water tank. And since it generates a lot of pressure, you have to buy these CalStop cartridges to prevent limescale buildup. Otherwise, the machine can break and it won't be covered by warranty. The benefit is the dry steam boost function for doing dresses, curtains, etc. without soaking them. By comparison, this one has a cartridge water chamber, which is easier to manage. However, it was at this point the woman stops me right then and there and says, "Stop, get me a woman." Perplexed, I wonder what I said wrong. I didn't need to wait to find out. She sees the look on my face and she goes on and says, "Like, a woman really gets these things. You clearly don't know anything about irons." Hearing her say that, I'm chanting in my head, "The customer's always right, the customer's always right," and managing my breathing to stay composed. And this is where I comply. I tell her, "No problem, madam. Allow me to get my colleague Doreen to help you then. So I walk around the corner to the till and get Doreen to help this delightful woman, who decided that I didn't know what I was talking about, even though I was explaining a lot to her. Now, a little bit about Doreen is she's nowhere as knowledgeable as I am when it comes to my area, as she's a part-time cashier. I introduce her to Karen and then head around to the west to cover vacuums. And not 2 minutes later, I hear Doreen heading towards me with the woman behind her saying, "Honestly, you need my colleague. He's the absolute expert on irons, and he knows so much more about them than me. He can help you find the perfect iron." The woman's face, as she realized it was me that she was being brought to as the expert on irons, was priceless. The woman fumbles a quick question to justify coming back to me, and then quickly hit the escalator to get the heck away from the awkward she generated. My goodness, guys, the ignorance of some people, right? Men don't know anything about irons. What would you know? Like, the woman said that in the middle of OP explaining the difference between irons. Like, I really don't understand how some people can walk around thinking that only a man can know hardware and tools, and only women can know about irons and nothing else. Like, guys, when I go into a store and I need help, like, I know I'm dumb. If you're employed there and you can help me find what I'm looking for and solve my problems, you're the real MVP. I don't care if you're a dog or a cat at that point. Alright, so I worked for a university IT department as a student worker for a little over 4 years. We had a sister department, the Media Center, who loaned out laptops, projectors, and other technologies to professors as needed. In my 4th year of employment, I was on a first-name basis with nearly all the employees at the university, including the head of the Media Center, who we'll call Karen because, obviously. Now, Karen was the queen of her kingdom, and she had quite a few obnoxious rules in place. But most importantly was an ironclad employee ID policy for checking out laptops. Under normal circumstances, I completely agree with this policy. However, this wasn't a normal circumstance. So we get a call from Karen at 4:40 on a Friday. We close at 5. That a laptop she was trying to loan out to a very important professor wasn't able to log into the network, and she requested we come look at it. I tell her sure thing. I make the 10-minute walk across campus from our office to the media center with my toolkit. When I get there to see the professor and Karen and ask to see the laptop, she says to me, "Wait, you need your name badge. Where is it?" Flash to my name badge. It was clipped to my jacket, hanging on a coat rack in the IT office. I tell her, "Oh, it's on my jacket, Karen. I totally forgot to grab it rushing over here." With that, I chuckle a bit. Deadpan, she says, "OP, you can't work on this until you go get your badge. Go get it." Ridiculous, right? So I tell her, "Karen, I thought this was an emergency. Do you need me to fix it right now?" Karen says, "Yes, of course, but you still need to follow policy." I say to her, "Fair enough. Policy is incredibly important, so let me go get my name badge." So I leave the office, trekked the 10 minutes back to my office, then picked up the phone and called her saying, "Hey Karen, so just letting you know that because it's 5:20 and the policy states that student workers can't work after hours, I'm gonna have to come back Monday. Have a great weekend." And boy, was she mad. She fumed at me for a few minutes until I essentially hung up on her. Policy is very important, I told her. Update. So what happened on Monday? Now, my boss didn't like Karen at all. He's an amazing guy in his 50s. He survived cancer, has MS, but still runs security at biker rallies. He's been with the university for about 30 years, and he had 8 weeks PTO. So he would take months off and ride around the country with his equally amazing wife. So he comes in Monday morning to a bunch of voicemails from her about it, and he yells over to me, "Hey, did you leave Karen hanging on Friday?" I tell him, "Yeah, Chuck, I forgot my name badge and the policy states." He then says to me, "Yeah, you're pretty forgetful sometimes," and then shrugged, and that was that. Karen had to loan her personal work laptop to the professor for the week. And for the curious, the problem was that in Windows XP days, when logging into Windows, it would attempt to connect to every saved wireless network, top to bottom. And because this was a loaner, there were literally hundreds of hotels, airports, and restaurant Wi-Fis, and it was taking like 8 or 9 minutes for the logon prompt to come up. It took me around 30 seconds to clear out all the saved Wi-Fi connections and return the laptop to them. Karen was not in the office when I went to work on it Monday morning. Guys, I love this malicious compliance so much. Beating a Karen at her own silly policy game. Like, seriously, couldn't she just let it go that one day? I don't understand what the heck her problem was. Like, she knew OP worked there, could provide the solution, So was she just making OP walk all the way back there to grab his badge to be petty? But guys, whatever the reason was, she got beat at her own game that day. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /malicious compliance. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that like button and consider subscribing if you're not subscribed already so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled people episode, where a psycho Karen destroys her career by accusing OP of faking public seizures. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.